Pakistan all out for 556. So they added 228 for the loss of those 6 wickets. The highlight of their lower order, 100 batting at number 8. Doesn't happen often, that might be one of the stats that Andy digs out. 104 not out for Saman Ali Agha. This is 3rd Test century. England stuck to their task well. It just fell away a bit towards the end when Abrar Ahmed, the number 11, should have been stumped by a couple of yards actually, and Smith failed to do it. A few moments later he was dropped by Atkinson at mid-wicket, and it just looked then as if England, frankly, are just beginning to flag. But then this very unusual incident in which Joe Root, who's bowls off spin. Well, he bowled a bouncer from round the wicket, which he does sometimes. He does bowl that bouncer just to keep the batsman on their toes, which is all well and good as long as he might tell the slip fields when he's going to bowl one, because, of course, Duckett was standing in position for a much slower ball than the one that Root bowled, which was guided off the face of the bat by Abrar straight to Duckett at slip. It went to him like a rocket, and he caught it really well, actually, but he's damaged his thumb in the process. It was the last ball of the innings, so he was unable to open the innings. Ollie Pope, who's been captain out there for the best part of 2 days, marshalling the troops, making all the decisions that a captain has to make, decided in a flash that he would go up and he would open the batting, so he had no time at all to settle down and to clear his mind or anything else. Straight out there batting. Second ball, he took on quite an ambitious pull shot, I felt. Got the middle of the bat and he hit it like a shell out to mid-wicket, where it was brilliantly caught, diving to the right by Jamal. It really was a superb catch. So Pope out for a second ball duck. 4 for 1, and obviously Pakistan jumping around there thinking that they were could possibly cause some problems, but Zach Crawley and Joe Root have just calmed things down. They put on 92 together, and England closed on 96 for 1. So still, however, 460 runs behind, which is a lot of runs. Stephen Finn sitting alongside me. It's been sort of an eventful day, but one that sort of just proceeded quite. I mean, it's a bit of a contradiction, but it sort of proceeded quite quietly if you look at the scores. But there's quite a lot gone on there.
Yeah, there are certainly talking points, aren't there? The things that happened within the day that were interesting. I found it a lot more interesting to watch than yesterday, to be quite honest. But yeah, look, England are still a long way behind the game. And Pakistan will go to bed again this evening, the happier of the two teams. But there are certainly signs there for England for them to not be disheartened. 94 for 1 at the close of play, having lost that very early wicket, which is when Pakistan could have come piling through the door. And that's what England would have had to be very wary about, is Pakistan being up and about for that first half an hour of that session. How did they repel that? Well, they repelled it by Joe Root being Joe Root. He just serenely made his way to 32 by the end of the day. He only scored 2 boundaries, but just rotating the strike. But it was Zach Crawley who really pushed back against the Pakistanis. He didn't let the leg spinner come in and settle Abrar when he came into the attack. He negated that new ball, which is where Pakistan could have done the damage, and they leave themselves, both of those batters, in pretty healthy positions overnight.
So he's 39 away, is he, from
38? Takes him level, I think. Yes, so yes. 39 would
39 would pass Alistair Cook, and in these conditions, you probably reckon he might well do it tomorrow.
Be a nervous night for Sir Alistair.
Well, he might be. He was mucking out his horses early this morning, so I'm sure he'll get over it. Actually, he does take it quite phlegmatically, doesn't he, to be honest? And I think Cook has always felt that Joe Root was inevitably going to score a mountain more runs than anybody, actually.
It has felt inevitable, hasn't it? I think probably for quite a long time it's felt inevitable. Clearly fulfilling very different roles within the team. Opening the batting, and half of your games in England is very different to batting number 4. But yeah, Joe Root, he's a class above many players that I've played with for England, including people like Kevin Peterson, Sir Alistair Cook, and fully deserves to be up and amongst those top players and reaching the summit, you'd imagine, tomorrow.
There were lots of people, including his dad, if he's listening, who were saying, stop putting the curse on him now, don't talk about it.
Not if you're a Pakistani fan.
Yeah, but it does just seem that he's got a perfect opportunity. I mean, it'll happen in this series at some stage. What do you think you do about this opening one? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that Duckett didn't have any sort of scan or any sort of X-ray, which suggests that it was a dislocation that was probably put back.
Yes, my two thoughts were when he was holding the heel of the thumb of his hand, I thought it's either a split webbing, which would have been bad because that needs to be stitched together, and then the sweat gets into it, and that's when it can get infected, and that's when they become really bad. Or it was a dislocation at the bottom of the thumb, which the physio, you look at it and it's the sort of one that makes you look queasy. You look down at your finger or your thumb and it's pointing the wrong direction. You think, what on earth's going on here? He'll have experienced that before because he's a batter, because he fields in and around the slips. But yeah, maybe it was a case of it just jolting that bottom of the thumb out of place, and the physio was able to slip it back in without being worried about ligament damage or any crack into the top of the thumb, which sometimes when the top of the thumb, as it looked like it did, takes the blow, you can get a crack through the top and then a dislocation at the bottom. That's when you're out for quite a while.
They must be pretty sure, because these days, and this is not an old timer saying this, but they seem to go off for scans and x-rays at a drop of a hat. So the fact that he hasn't gone for anything, they must be pretty confident that that's what it is.
Yeah, you do a big sneeze and you're off for a scan on a crack
well, you
rib
said
or
that,
something.
not me.
Well, I could read your mind, I think, because we spent enough time together. But
I know.
Yeah, you're right. If they were really concerned about it, unless there are security issues about getting to and from the hospital without an escort of some sort, I think that he'd have been whipped straight off to a hospital. Generally, when it's MRI scans or muscle injuries, you leave it till 48 hours after to let the blood around the injury settle, because that can mask what's actually going on within the muscle. When it's a break and it's just a simple x-ray where you have to go under the x-ray machine, swelling doesn't matter, it cuts through that. So with a finger injury like that, it would be an x-ray that they would send him for, and it would be a surprise if they were concerned for him not to be in a x-ray machine now.
Left thumb, left-hander,
bottom hand.
So bottom hand, could be a bit of jarring going on there, couldn't there? I mean, it's going to be, he's going to have to grit his teeth if he's going to bat.
And every time I think when I've only broken an index finger before. I've not actually done a thumb, but when you're holding the bat and those vibrations, if you get out the middle of the bat, it's almost like nothing's happened. You don't feel it. It's like a nice solid feeling in your hands as you're holding the bat. But if you hit any other area of the bat, especially the toe, on a pitch that's keeping low, those vibrations go up, they reverberate up through the bat and go into your hands, and that's when it gets really... It's when you see batters getting their bottom hand off the bat and wringing their fingers.
There are going to be people, inevitably, who say, Ollie Pope, naught, But actually, I mean, OK, I'm giving the fellow some credit, because he's led the team out there for 2 days.
I thought he captained pretty well.
So do I. And imaginatively, there were lots of field changes going on, all the things that a captain goes through, and a big score put up against them as well. Who's going to bowl? All the stuff that a captain has to do. He did it for the best part of 2 days. That incident happened off the last ball of the innings.
Yeah.
So there's an instant decision to be made, isn't there? And we sort of ran through a few suggestions here about who might open the batting, and we sort of assumed it would probably be the number 3 he goes up. But that the captain has got all that, and he's a pretty exhausted mind, let's be honest, has just gone in there, strapped his pads on and gone straight out to bat. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, actually.
I agree with you. I think the mental energy that he'd have expended over the last 2 days shifting the field around. Yes, he has captained England before, but that's been when you just have to decide whether you're having a fourth slip or a gully, or no cover. They're pretty simple captaincy decisions that he'd have had to make throughout the summer in order to win those the test series that he did against Sri Lanka in those last few weeks of the summer. But here, the mental energy to think about bowling changes, to think about how fresh bowlers are, to think about where someone's going to hit the ball in the air, the flows of the game, and then for it to happen because it wasn't tea at the time, was it? I think we'd taken tea.
It was a straight out,
and it was a straight out there decision. He'd have walked. He'd have been stood wherever he was stood at cover. Duckett would have took that catch. He'd have thought, right, I can just relax for 10-15 minutes. I can get my pads on and be ready in that first over. All of a sudden, Duckett's walking off holding his thumb, and him and Brendan McCullum would come together and said, what do you want to do? I'll go up there and do it. And he strikes me as that sort of character that says, I want to be the person. He moved up to number 3, probably voluntary, but I don't think he'd be preferring to bat at number 3 in this England lineup. I think he'd like to be 5 or 6. But he's done that to fulfil a role for the team, and it would have been the same today. And I think it was an instinctive shot that he played. It wasn't. It was just, I'm going to go out there and bat and watch the ball an instinctive shot, and it was we can't forget that was a brilliant catch.
Well, superb.
Diving high to the right behind him, and to hold on to it, it was quite ridiculous.
It was, and he nailed the shot. I mean, I thought it was a slightly adventurous shot so early in
That's
the
why
innings.
I say it was instinctive.
Yes,
I think he was just stood there watching the ball saying, protect your stumps, but if it's there to score, I want to show some positivity towards it. I don't think he was there saying, if he drops it short, I'm going to try and smash him out of the ground. It was pure instinct.
Yeah, and it's a sort of attack. We're going through possibilities of other openers and so on, but you actually want solid openers against this attack. There's some pace out there, isn't there? I mean, it's not a it's a sort of attack where you could send a Chris Wokes up or something. No. I mean, I think it had to be a front
and a crucial
batsman.
time of the game as well. A really, really crucial time of the game, because if England, I mean, even more left field would be, say, Jack Leach has a good technique. He's good at bunting the ball. Send him up there but if you give them the momentum early in the innings, that was Pakistan's way of making life really, really difficult for England today. Was having England 2 or 3 down within those first 10 overs. Then we'd be sat here reviewing the day very, very differently.
We've talked about the pitch, obviously, quite a lot, because you never quite know how it's going to play and what it's going to be like. I was interested by the fact that England used the light roller before their first innings. I mean, generally, 99 times out of well, not 99, maybe 19 times out of 20. You put a heavy roller on before your first innings, don't you? I mean, it does change different parts of the world, but the fact they put the light roller on, I just thought suggested that maybe they've got 1 or 2 concerns about what it's going to be like towards not now, but towards the end of the game, and so they're going to keep it quiet, keep it and not ruffle up those edges of those cracks too much.
Yeah, as this game's developed, actually, when we first saw the pitch the day before the game, and it was green grass, and we thought, well, it might nip around. Then they shaved that grass off yesterday, and you see the cracks that are underneath. Clearly, the grass on that pitch is there trying to hold it together, trying to keep those cracks from opening up too much, too early in the game. So when I walked out there this morning and I looked at the pitch and those cracks were significantly bigger, it's definitely a tactical decision by England to have used that light roller to make sure that, and the difference, if you don't know the difference, a heavy roller is much, much, much heavier than a light roller, and when it's going over those cracks, it disturbs the platelets of the pitch, because that's what this does look like. It looks almost like Australian platelets when the Hoover camera is going down the pitch. If you have a heavy roller going up and down those for 4 minutes, I think it is, then it's disturbing the corners, it's making those platelets move, little bits flake off, and that's when you get that variable bounce. England don't want that now.
If you're worried about the pitch, you don't really put the...
You don't want to get too much weight through it.
You don't put the heavy one on. Let's talk a bit about Pakistan's innings and the bowling. I mean, again, they did stick to it, didn't they? We rather feared for them this morning. You sleep after a long day like that and you wake up pretty stiff. But actually, they all ran in hard. Pope bowled all of them before lunch, so they all had a spell. They all had to go. He's not over bowled anybody, I don't think. The quick bowlers have only bowled 4 or 5 overs in a spell, no more than that. Yeah,
and I thought they all ran in gamely, and I know they were sloppy towards the back end with the mis-stumping, the drop catch, and which led to Pakistan still being out there and Ben Duckett doing the damage to his thumb. But that's so understandable. 150 overs in 35-degree heat with minimal preparation time afforded to you by the schedule. We should remember, not their choice.
Absolutely.
I think it was a really good effort by the England bowlers and captain to keep everyone going out there, and not once did anyone throw the towel in, and that's a great window into a team.
You've been night watchman. We all remember that innings. A very fine innings it was. Very fine blunting innings as night watchman.
Critical within the context of the series.
It was indeed. Yes. We'll gloss over that. No, it was a fine innings. But you never quite know how to play as night watchman, do you? And the next morning, I mean, you do a bit the night before. It's kind of a situation of the game thing, and we know that Stuart Broad had that Nighthawk label, didn't he, to go out and play some shots the next day, because he's got a great eye and he's got lots of shots. Naseem Shah played some shots, and so actually his innings today was quite crucial, because there was just that chance. The new ball was only half a dozen overs old this morning, first things. There was a chance that England had, if they got him out early and got into that lower order, they did have a chance of actually bowling Pakistan out. But he actually, to be fair, he got his head down, 30 odd in 61 balls. He did a good job.
Yeah, and even after a day like Pakistan had yesterday, they've got bad memories of the last 5 test matches they've played. They've lost. They lost 3-0 to England here last time. So those would be going on in the back of the coach's mind. And the messaging this morning when Pakistan got to the ground, it would have been, we've worked hard yesterday, we do not throw our position away today. And he played, especially in that first hour, as a man who had been told that message, we're not going to throw this position away, we're not just going to flit our wickets away and give England their opportunity to come back into the game, we're going to press home our advantage. And I think that those two that batted at the beginning of the day really did that.
Yeah, Saud played an interesting innings, and he actually played quite nicely, quite fluently, and then he's almost ground to a halt in the end. He got a good 82. He got the ball that maybe England thought, hang on a minute, we've got to be careful here, because it was Bashir from round the wicket. It just spun enough, but it bounced, didn't it?
Yeah.
It seemed to hit a crack and bounce.
Yeah.
It was caught at slip as a classic off spinner's bowler. But he just seemed to grind to a bit of a halt there.
Yeah, and actually we've seen a bit of a running theme of that. Abdullah Shafiq on the first day scored 102, but really slowed down in the second half of his innings. Clearly fatigue and the heat got to him a little bit. Shan Masood played a bit of a lazy shot when he was fatigued on 151. And maybe Saud Shakil fell foul to a similar thing. I think it's very hard to keep that intensity up all the way through your innings, which again is something that England will have to be wary of tomorrow. Yeah,
and let's mention Salman Ali Agha, and that was we will get thoughts on hundreds at number 8 in a second from Andy, but you don't get many of those, and lovely clean hits, and he just gave that sort of pace, really, that input of energy into Pakistan's innings that it needed.
And again, though, when him and Shaheen Shah Afridi came together, it was 464 for 8, and if you're England there, you're thinking, well, if we knock these last two over, that we get them out for less than 500. Actually, a good partnership through the rest of today, and you can start thinking about how you can press forward to try and win this game. That partnership actually put paid to those thoughts this evening for England. I still think they'll be sat in that dressing room wondering how they win the game. Can we declare 100 behind or something inventive like that? There's a lot of work for them to do until they get there. But that partnership between Salman Ali Agha and Shaheen Shah Afridi certainly put the nail in that coffin of those thoughts today.
Yeah, 85 they put on. Shaheen Shah Afridi scoring 26. Ugly swipe to give Leach another wicket, but he is a number 10 after all. Go on then, Andy. What struck you today? Statistic-wise?
Well, we'll start with those hundreds from number 8. It's the 14th time a Pakistan player batting at 8 or lower has scored a century. The first into Yasir Shah's rather extraordinary bolt from the blue against Australia 5 years ago in Adelaide, in all the 29th such innings against England. England conceded 500 for just the third time this decade, the third time under Bazball. The previous 2 matches they conceded 500. Since Stokes and McCullum took over, they've gone on to win, one being in Rawalpindi and the other Trent Bridge against New Zealand in that first Bazball summer. So yeah, maybe this is
don't think they celebrate conceding 500.
A cunning strategy.
So it sounds like sort of a Baldrick plan, that one.
So they bowled 149 overs. Only once in the test summer, across 6 tests, did they bowl more than 90 overs in an innings. That was against West Indies in the first innings at Trent Bridge, which was about, I think, 110, 111 overs. So yeah, an unusual workload for England. Pakistan had 3 centurions. That's only the... Oh, sorry, I can't read my own handwriting here, which is absolutely... It's only the second time England have conceded 3 centuries since January 2018, and Rawalpindi on the last tour was the other one. Again, they went on to win. England had already batted at that point and made over 650. And Pakistan had 4 80-plus scores against England for the first time in their history. Just looking at Zach Crawley, his last 15 tests, 10 50-plus scores, only 100, averaging 46. His previous 25 tests, only 6 50-plus scores and an average of 22. So more evidence of his huge improvement since the start of the 2023 summer, and once again peppering the boundaries. Already 11 fours in his 64 runs, reached 50 off 55 balls, just a joint 30th fastest 50 by an England opener. And looking at 50s by England openers in 55 balls or fewer. It's the 32nd. 17 of them have been since Stokes and McCullum took over. 6 by Crawley, 9 by Duckett, 1 by Stokes when he batted up the order, and 1 by Alex Lee. So further evidence of how England really have attacked right from the start of innings over the last sort of two and a half years. Ollie Pope, a rather unfortunate dismissal, having to not only step in as captain but also as opener. The first test last time he stepped in as wicketkeeper. Odd year for Pope, 3 centuries, 3 ducks, averaging 35 out of all the times that a player has scored 3 test centuries in a calendar year. Currently that is the second lowest average, at 35.4 he's averaging this year. So he's got a very strange year of peaks and troughs. Rather unlucky to be caught by a blinding catch.
Well,
today.
I think he was, and I think there was some mitigating factors there. Right, before we go, let's catch up with Bryden Cass, who's been speaking to Atif Nawaz.
Bryden, thanks so much for making the time. It's been quite the year for you this year. Lots been going on. I bet there were times when you were serving a suspension. Your first England Test wicket must have felt a million miles away.
Yeah, look, obviously happy to be here now, and the last 6 weeks back playing in an England shirt has been a good positive 6 weeks, and to get my Test wicket today, it's a very special feeling.
Yeah, talk us through how it felt taking that first Test wicket. It must have been very emotional. There was a lot of expression on your face when you took it. Talk us through how it felt at the time.
Yeah, look, obviously yesterday, I thought I had that then, but obviously with the DRS and just pitching outside leg. And then today, obviously, I was in, after 4 overs, Popey came over and said, look, do you have one more in you? And I said, yeah, definitely, because I felt in good rhythm in that spell. And then, look, obviously, probably not the celebrations that, you would expect after your first Test wicket, but, the guys were knackered and like I was into my, I think 17th, 18th over. But, yeah, obviously a relief, and glad that I could contribute with a couple of wickets today for the team.
Yeah, and you spent a lot of time out in the field. Everybody did. How is everybody feeling after that? Is there a bit of fatigue there?
Yeah, definitely. I think the guys, well, the bowlers will be a bit fatigued, but we've batted nicely there tonight, and the guys will rest up tonight, and hopefully tomorrow we can come and have a good batting day.
Yeah, there was a moment while you guys were in the field where Woakesy took a catch on the boundary. It looked like it was a catch, and it was adjudged to be 6. Didn't seem too pleased with it. What was the vibes like then in the team?
Well, I was I think I was down a deep square leg. Look, it was a great bit of fielding, and I think most of us thought it was probably out, but obviously his foot was just touching the ground. Yeah, look, when those sort of things don't go your way, there's obviously a little bit of hard done by, but obviously the guys kept going and kept sticking to their plan, and credit to all the bowlers and fielders over the last 2 days, because it was tough graft out there, but everyone stuck to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack Leach, 40 overs for him. What's it like having him back in the team? I know he's a very popular character in the England dressing room.
Yeah, Leach is a great guy. He's a popular member. I actually get on quite well with him, and he's a funny man to be around, and look, I don't know how many overs he got through, 40 odd overs. He did a great job for the team, and ending up with 3 or 4 wickets there.
Yeah, it's a terrific performance from you and the team. As you say, good batting this in the evening session as well. What's the discussion going to be like? What's the plan coming back tomorrow?
I think the guys will just rest up tonight and come back and bat positively and try and put their bowlers under pressure. And if we have a good day, we'll reassess where we're at the end of the day.
556 is a big score in the first innings from Pakistan. Do you think England can still win this game?
Of course, yeah. Like I say, we come back tomorrow, and if we bat positively, we'll see where we are towards the end of the day.
Fantastic. Bryden, thank you so much for speaking to us.
No worries, thank you.
Bryden Cass, who toiled away and ended up with a couple of wickets to show for that. Just before we go from here, Steve Finn, well, it's bat, isn't it? It's just bat, and they'll bat at their pace. They'll still be behind tomorrow, but it's just a case of keeping going.
Exactly, keep going, and I think it's just recognising those moments that Pakistan might be getting some wind in their sails, and then somehow sucking it out of those sails. I think they will have half an eye on, if they have a good session or a session and a half tomorrow, I think they will have half an eye on how they can push this game forward. Can they declare 100 behind? Can they get themselves into a position where they can start trying to force a result later on? I think first things first will be just get through those first overs tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Let's get some reaction then from the Pakistan camp. Saud Shakil has been speaking to Atif.
South, very well played today. How did it feel to get some runs away on the surface?
Every time you get runs, it's get you the confidence and it's feel good for yourself. But at the same time, little bit disappointed. Couldn't convert that into a triple figure. But that's how game goes on. I'm pretty much happy.
556 is where Pakistan ended up. As a team, are you pleased with that total?
Yeah, definitely. We are very pleased with that total, and we'll try to get some early wickets tomorrow and then see where we're standing.
How is the pitch playing? There's been so much discussion about it being a flat wicket. Do you think it's a flat wicket? How would you assess it?
I think it's slightly on the slower side, but there are some cracks which are now opening up, and you can see some variable bounce from tomorrow onwards, and we'll see how the game goes on then.
You played a brilliant innings yourself, but obviously there were 3 other centurions in the team with Shan Masood, Abdullah Shafiq and Salman Ali Agha. Must be very good for morale in the dressing room with 3 centurions?
Yeah, definitely. When you play as a team really well, you like 3 centurions and a half 50. Overall morale will boost up, and the way the 3 guys played, that's very good from them, and the strike rate and the amount of courage they shown in there, I'm pretty good with that.
The conditions have proved quite difficult for the England team as well. Are you anticipating them staying difficult to perform in?
Yeah, we'll try our best to make things difficult for them. Yeah, look, as I said earlier, that some cracks are getting up, so hopefully some turn and bounce will get tomorrow, and get some early wickets to wind them up.
In terms of the preparation for this, there's a lot of discussion about the Bangladesh series and a lot of criticism and things like that from the press. How did you put that behind you as a team?
I think as a team, when you are playing, so you have to forget things and you have to look forward. Where in Bangladesh series, we have a couple of experiments there regarding the pitch as well. So as a team, we are moving forward, and we are not thinking about the backs which we have done, but we are looking forward to think we can improve in the future.
And what's the plan for tomorrow when you come out and try and attack England?
Yeah, we'll make sure that we get some early wickets early in the morning and put the pressure on England team and just try to get wickets and make them on the back foot.
Shakil, thank you so much for your time and well played.
Thanks very much.